What's going on, everyone? De'Aaron Fox, he has been the face of the Sacramento Kings for some time now, and at 24 years old, he is a really solid young player and a really solid young guard. He is a bit undersized at 6'3", but for a point guard, that's pretty reasonable, especially in today's NBA. He is athletic. He has these moments where he is an absolute monster and really just has that drive that really makes him an effective player. And the Sacramento Kings just went and got Sabonis to pair with him, and that pairing seemed to really work well for the Kings, and it'll be interesting to see how a full season with them on the roster will actually develop, and that chemistry will grow even further. But for some time, for whatever reason, the Sacramento Kings have reported to allow teams to kind of propose trades for De'Aaron Fox. Now, whether the Kings would ever actually trade him or not, that's kind of yet to be seen. But it's kind of interesting that they would even allow that, or not just put a stop to it and just say, De'Aaron Fox is untouchable. But it is the Sacramento Kings. I mean, unfortunately, we have seen just a ridiculous amount of just terrible trades and draft choices and just choices in general when it comes to the Kings, that they would be that team to trade De'Aaron Fox to somebody else and just, kind of halt whatever progress they are doing. Although I do feel like they have done and made some nice choices as of late. But there is a reported package that was put together by Bleacher Report, and that package is this: De'Aaron Fox to the New York Knicks. And the Knicks would get De'Aaron Fox as their point guard for now and the future. And the Sacramento Kings would get R.J. Barrett, Derrick Rose, and two 2023 first-round picks. Now, you got to remember the Knicks have 22 picks going forward, so they could give up multiple picks for multiple drafts, as they do have that going forward. So this would be quite the haul for the Sacramento Kings. Now, right off the bat, I mean, R.J. Barrett and De'Aaron Fox are kind of the swap here, and R.J. Barrett is young in and of himself, but so is De'Aaron Fox. But R.J. Barrett, as much as Knicks fans might feel slighted by that loss, feel like, that's not a guy that we want to give up, there's too much unknown with Barrett. I mean, he has moments where he just looks like he could end up being an all-star, and he could be this cornerstone for the New York Knicks. And then there's other games where he just looks completely lost, and it looks like he doesn't even belong in the NBA at times. It's really weird that he has these fluctuations at times and at moments. And again, you're getting a franchise point guard, which would be huge for the New York Knicks. I mean, the New York Knicks, you got to keep in mind, since basically Walt Frazier, they've never had stability at the point guard position. It's always been this turnout of just multiple point guards coming and going. And to have that stability in De'Aaron Fox, I think would be huge for them. It would really help establish them and give them a bit of an identity. Because that's the biggest problem I feel with the Knicks. It's like, what is your identity? And they're willing to give up all this money to go and get Brunson. And it's like, I don't think he's the answer. Now, De'Aaron Fox, I don't think is the number one guy on a team that's going to win a championship. But it's a great start. And he's still young enough to where you can build with him for the future. He's not, 29, and it's like, okay, well, we got him, but now what do we do? You get De'Aaron Fox, you make a couple nice moves, you cleared up some cap space even, so you're actually in a position where you can sign somebody. Maybe you can go get a Bradley Beal or something like that. Now you got Fox and Beal. That is I would take that all day over R.J. Barrett. As great as R.J. may potentially be, the reality is you never really know. He could easily become, the next Paul Pierce, or he could end up being, an Andrew Wiggins, where, yeah, he's a nice player, but he's not your number one option. He's more of like a third or fourth option. It's just, you never really know. And like I said, RJ has these moments of just brilliance, but then just has these moments of just like, yeah, you're kind of this role guy. And, obviously he's still young, tons of room for development, tons of room for growth, and hopefully he does get to that point. But if you're the Knicks, kind of like let the Kings figure it out. They got Sabonis, they got RJ. Let them try to put the pieces together and see what they can do, see what they can develop. You're also giving up some draft picks, which, the Knicks, they've never had this tremendous history of drafting well. The only time that they actually drafted right was when, the NBA basically rigged it for them with Patrick Ewing. So it's not like they have this just pedigree history of drafting great players. And the whole point of accumulating those assets were to make trades to go get a guy like De'Aaron Fox. But you're going to have to give some stuff up. De'Aaron Fox is that mid-tier guy. Like, he's not, he's not Ja Morant but he's not, Rajon Rondo at this point. He's that guy. He could be an all-star on the right team in the right position with the right guys around him. And I think that if you're the Knicks, you go and get him and you try to figure it out. And now you kind of can establish that core, that identity, those things, which the Knicks just kind of don't really have. I mean, 2 years ago, they kind of had this like underdog identity and this underdog mentality, and they went on this great run. And then the Knicks this past year just went right back into what people thought they were going to be in. I mean, Julius Randle just became a complete mess. And maybe you can work something out where you're unloading Julius Randle also. Maybe you can get a Harrison Barnes in the process. Like, hey, we're giving you all these draft picks. We're giving you a young guy in RJ Barrett. Maybe you can kind of tweak it a little bit to kind of make it work and maybe unload another contract or two. And now, like I said, you go get a Bradley Beal or you move off of a bad contract in Julius Randle. The Sacramento Kings, they're not the best at trade packages and trade deals, stuff like that. So I could see them getting kind of fleeced in this area. But again, RJ, I love RJ. I think he has a ton of potential. I mean, he went to Duke. I'm a Duke fan through and through since I was a little kid. Christian Laettner, JJ Redick. Those were the guys that the world hated at that time, and just the history and just pedigree and Coach K and all that stuff. But in reality, like I said, he's kind of at this point where it's like you don't really know what you're going to get with him. As great as he could potentially be, there's just so many unknowns. Like I said, he could turn out to be the next Paul Pierce. And then you're great. You got your franchise cornerstone. You got the guy that you're building your team around. But right now, they don't have this identity. They don't know what direction it seems like they're going to go. And you have Thibodeau, who isn't really great at developing guys and playing the young guys and, growing the young guys and things like that. I just think RJ Barrett is not in the best spot for his growth and development if you're the Knicks. Now, I'm not saying Sacramento is the greatest place ever for that either, but I think he'd be a lot more free. He'd have a lot more opportunity. He would kind of be the focal point on offense more than ever. And I think he could kind of hopefully develop into his own and maybe be more consistent than he has been on the Knicks. I think if you're the Sacramento Kings, first off, I have no idea why you would trade De'Aaron Fox. Like I said, for whatever reason, De'Aaron Fox's name just keeps popping up. And I don't know if it's just because of the Kings. I don't know if it's just smokescreen. I don't know what it is. But for whatever reason, every year you kind of hear these little murmurs of De'Aaron Fox potentially being traded by the Sacramento Kings. And so, I mean, if you are to ever trade him, this is the kind of package you want. A nice young player, a couple draft picks. You got Derrick Rose to kind of fill the void of De'Aaron Fox. And so you're kind of in this good spot. If you're the Kings, you're probably just as good as you were going to be regardless. But I just don't think you went and got Sabonis for De'Aaron, like this pairing, Fox, Sabonis, there you go. Let's see what you could do for a year. But I mean, this is a pretty good return for De'Aaron Fox. And then, like I said, the Knicks, that was the whole point. And so, you're getting a guy that is now your franchise face, your starting point guard, and now you kind of have this jumping off point to kind of build around and start putting the pieces together. Maybe you go and package some more of those picks and, maybe Toppin and stuff like that, and you go get, a Bradley Beal, like I said, something like that. Now you got De'Aaron Fox and Beal as your core going forward, and now you're in the solid spot, re-sign Mitchell Robinson. There you go. Now you got at least these three kind of start putting pieces together to really sort of build a quality Knicks team. I mean, it's just, it doesn't look like the Knicks really have a direction. And that's the concerning thing. It seems like they don't really have a plan. They keep saying they have a plan. They keep saying, oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that and the other. But history isn't on the Knicks side, and neither is what the moves that they have made as of right now have done. But if you went and got a De'Aaron Fox, you're showing, okay, we really did do this for a purpose. We really did this for a reason. We really did put ourselves in this position. I think, even with everything you're giving up, I think the Knicks win this trade hands down. I think that this would be a huge pickup for the New York Knicks. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is leading you to the NBA Finals by himself, but I think he is a great beginning, a great start. You got a guy that you can build your team around. He's young enough to where he can grow and be developed under this team. You still got some nice pieces. You still got all of those assets. You still would have, 20 assets to go and get another guy to put around De'Aaron Fox. the only way the Knicks are really going to be able to revamp their franchise is to make a move like this, to where you now become attractive. Because right now, if you're looking at the Knicks and you are a Bradley Beal or, a Kevin Durant or something like that, you're not looking at that and going, God, I really love to go to the Knicks, right? I mean, you got to play with Thibodeau, who just kind of seems like, he's phased out of the NBA at this point. His just style isn't anything. And I mean, he's never, what has he done? What has he won? He hasn't really done anything. He had an incredible Bulls team that was just ridiculously stacked. But outside of that, he's not really proven. And he's not really a coach for the modern times. And so, what attraction do you have if you're the Knicks other than you're the New York Knicks? But that's just kind of more of a, mirage than anything. I mean, they haven't been a contender in 30 years, like a legit contender. They've had nice names on paper before, with the Carmelo and, you had Tyson Chandler and Amari Stoudemire. Yeah, on paper that looked great. Jason Kidd, yeah, but they were all out of their prime. They weren't legit contenders. They barely made it to the second round, for years. And then Carmelo Anthony ended up being out. That team was 5 years too late. So at some point you got to do something that makes you attractive to other teams. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think? Do you think if you're the Knicks, absolutely, you do this, pull the trigger, let's make it happen. If you're the Kings, do you think you do this? Absolutely, pull the trigger. That's some great assets. Let's do this, let's make it happen. Or do you think one side wins more than the other? Do you think it's a silly trade in general? How do you feel about it? Do you agree with me in the sense of the New York Knicks and just kind of finding your identity, finding something? Again, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.